Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Sunday. August the 8th. No, August the 9th. My favorite number, 2026. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not going to be here long. Um, I have to be somewhere by 7 o'clock to another community. But I had to get the ball rolling in doing these lives and building my social media platform. Let's see, what do we have? What do we have? So, I hope you're having a great day. Because I sure am. I got some baked chicken going on right now. I'll probably throw some rice with it. I think I still got some more spinach salad in there I can add on there, but I probably won't eat that for a while. But I know I gotta check that chicken in about, for sure, in another hour before I go to my next community. So once again, let's get things going. Today we're gonna talk about what is church hurt, but let me introduce myself. Feel me? Can I introduce myself? I think I should. Hold on, what's going on here? Alright, stay that. Always something with this. Hold on. Always something with this StreamYard. That's because I don't use it enough. Wow. Hold on one second. Now I can't find my sound effects. What the hell just happened? Let's go here. Got that. Have this. Wow, that's crazy. I can't find my sound effects. Now, it's supposed to be with my media asset, but it's not allowing me to look at the whole screen. It's always something. Hold on. Give me a minute. I got the music. Got the music. That's why. There's something that I'm not seeing. Now that frustrates me. That frustrates me. Let's go back on top. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I'm not gonna trip on it. It's tripping. It's only showing me half the page. I got my music here, and I'm missing something. I'm overlooking something because I just set it. I just made the settings. Anyway. So, anyway, the topic today, I've been putting out reels dealing with uh, church hurt. Church hurt, uh, coming from church hurt to spiritual recovery. I got a couple of reels out there on TikTok, on Facebook, and on my YouTube channel. Now, my YouTube channel, I forgot to put that on here, but my YouTube channel, you can find that on, of course, on YouTube. And to be honest with you, I don't remember the address. But that's not important. My main thing right now is just starting the process of just going live. And yeah. So what we're talking about today, or what I'm talking about today, or discussing today, is what is church hurt. Now, let's take a look at a couple of things. Now, in my reels that I have out there, okay, I'm trying to get it together, yo. I'm trying to get it together. Jesus Christ. All right. That's why going live, man. Going live, or recording, it really isn't easy because what's in here, I have to get what's in here. I have to get what's in here, to come out of my mouth. And my mind is always moving faster than my mouth. Some people would say that's not true, but I think so. That my mind moves faster than my mouth. So what I'm actually working on is a 10-part reel series discussing deconstruction, or moving from church hurt to spiritual recovery, going through the platform of deconstruction. And so that's what I'm working on. So it's a 10-part reel. And right now, the first topic that I'm going to be discussing for a little while, or however long that may take, what is church hurt? What is church hurt? So if I go to my notes, let me go to my notes real quick. Get me going. Church hurt is the emotional, psychological, relational, or spiritual pain that a person experiences because of their involvement with the church, its leaders, or with its members, or its teachings. The hurt can result from individual actions, institutional practices, or deeply held beliefs that are seen or that may seem harmful. Now, to break it down in a nutshell, when people claim church hurt, what they're actually saying is that something happened in their experience going to church, or whatever religion you may be a part of. But since I'm more familiar with Christianity, I'm going to deal with the church. That causes, so something happened, some type of experience happened within the church that caused some form of emotional, relational, psychological, or spiritual pain. That is what one of my reels discusses or talks about. Understand though, but the phrase church hurt is actually a very broad statement. In other words, church hurt to me will be different to church hurt to someone else. Now, there are a lot of deconstruction platforms out there. So my idea is not to really like most of them, but to kind of like, instead of really focusing on what the church has done wrong to us. Because sometimes it's not about the church. Sometimes it's not about, it's not. It has nothing to do with the church. Because sometimes the church is not abusive. Sometimes, uh, it's not all. It's not what I'm trying to say. You know, we have to recognize that the phrase church hurt doesn't necessarily tell you what happens, right? It doesn't automatically mean that the church was abusive, because a lot of us, we attended. There are some good churches out there. You know, there's some bad ones out there. There are some good ones, right? Or it doesn't automatically mean that a person's beliefs have changed either. Could have, it could or could not have, right? Also, we have to understand that Christianity, reason why we may experience church hurt, we can't say it's because of Christianity is the cause of the pain, or that every church is the same. So the definition of someone experiencing church hurt varies. I said all of that to say that. It varies. However, it could be some legitimate emotional, psychological, relational, or spiritual pain involved as well. So what I'm focused but I think it's wise that instead of, let's not put all the blame on the church. Without looking at what part did we play with the pain or the confusion. I think that's very important. Yeah, I think that's very important that we don't just look at what the church did, but what part did we play in the experience we received that now has us in a position or have us feeling that, I need to deconstruct from the church. And the reason why that is important, because if I'm deconstructing from the church, from religion, and moving into spiritual recovery, I have to do some shadow work within myself, because the deconstruction could be your soul or your spirit putting you in a position or compelling you to improve your spirituality. But like I said earlier, there may be the church hurt is real, right? Because you may be coming out of a situation to where you felt betrayed by the church or Christianity or the religion. You felt judged. You felt controlled. may have experienced spiritual abuse. You may lost your community within the church or within the religion, or you may have become disillusioned. So, we want to be clear of where the church hurt is coming from, what is creating it, and trying to find my little section. Where's that? Where's it at? We just want to be clear. Now, on my YouTube channel, I have the banner, deconstruction isn't destruction. Deconstruction isn't destruction. Because if we go back, a lot of us, if we go back to these certain issues that we go through, as far as like feeling betrayed, feeling judged, or controlled, stuff like that, right? Or even the loss of community. When we start dealing with the loss of community, it kind of brings up leaving the church often means losing friendships, mentors, and sometimes family relationships. So, when we start having these church hurt issues and feel like that we need to deconstruct out of the religion, it can become very difficult because then what you're putting yourself into is separating yourself from your community that you grew up with. You're gonna lose some friendships, mentors. Your family relationships may not be. You may feel that it's not as close or tight, or you may get pushed away all together because you're going against the grain of the norm, that you're supposed to believe this, that you're supposed to believe that, because you have loved ones who have passed away. They are at this certain realm, especially with Christianity, that you're with Jesus in heaven, and in order to see them again, we have to continue to believe that belief, in order to see them again. I don't know how true that may be because I've never been there. In other words, I'm still alive, so I'm still in this third dimension. I don't know what the next dimension is really about. None of us really do. Everything that we go by is based on a faith, based on a belief. Now, that does not mean that the faith or the belief is wrong. It's just that's what it is. It's a faith and it's a belief. That's the best. That's the best that we can put it, and to hope that when we do cross the River Jordan, if you will, our faith and our belief will manifest itself into the truth. So that can be hard to navigate through. But each generation doesn't believe, sometimes does not believe as the previous generation. Why is that? I'm not really sure, but hold on, let me see if I can share my screen real quick. What time is it? I got 30 minutes the most. See where we at. Let me share my screen. What I want to do, I want to chat GPT, and I was curious about the generation statuses or codes. Let's see if I can go here. Yeah. So I started off like this. I asked ChatGPT. I couldn't remember I couldn't remember some of the generation codes or names or titles. So I had to start off and say, hey, what are the names of the generation class? So they gave me this right here. Uh, Here are the commonly used U.S. generation names and approximate birth year and ranges. So we got, to start here, generation, the greatest generation, approximately birth years 1901 to 1927. If he was alive now, you would be in the age range of 99 to 125. And we have the silent generation, right? Born from 1928 to 1945. If you were alive now, you would be at the age range of 81 and 98. Then we have, which most of us are familiar with, the baby boomers. The boomers. But the birth years going from 1946 to 1964. If you're alive today, you'll have that range from 62 to 80 years old. Then we have the Generation X, the Gen X, birth years 1965 to 1980. Age range 46 to 61. Then we go to the millennials, or the Gen Y, Generation Y, a birth years 1981 to 1996. Birth age is going to go from 30 to 45 years of age. Then we have Generation Z, 1997, birth years to 2012. Age range is 14 to 29. And then we have the last two, Generation Alpha, birth range 2013 to 2024, going from the ages from 2 to 13. And then lastly, according to ChatGPT, we have Generation Beta, which goes from years 225 to 239. New on the scenes, newborns and 1 years old, right? Now, stay with me. I'm trying to go somewhere. Now, for myself, I was born in 1963. Born in 1963, which makes me I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers generation, right? Baby boomers generation, 1946 to 1964, from 62 to 80 years old. I am 62. I will be 63 this year and another month. And actually, as a matter of fact, in 30 days, if the divine says the same, I will be 63, right? Now, let me go to my other screen so I can take a look what I want to take a look at. What I'm trying to point out that when it comes to Christianity or religion, each generation, not all of them, but each generation starts to have a different belief system of the religion they were brought up in. Let me give you an example. Now, I have two mothers. I have a biological mom, and I had a adopted mom. Both of them have transitioned. I think one was born in I think my biological mom was born in 1939, and my adopted mom was born in 1925. They were strictly, no doubt, 100% Jesus. Jesus is it. Paid it all. Jesus paid it all to him. All of that. The household was ran. You're going to go to church. You're going to get this Jesus education. And you're going to build your faith on the teachings that you get from the church, from the community, that Jesus is real. Now, I'm not here to debate that. That, like I said earlier, is dealing with faith and belief. Because for a lot of people, that faith and that belief makes them one hell of a person. They take care of their families, they stand on their jobs, they go through tough times, they lose loved ones, and they get on the rock of ages, they hold on to the rock of ages, you know what I'm saying, and they prosper and they move on until the day that I die. What it was, I know it was the blood. Well, how that song go? I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood for me. One day when I was lost, Jesus died upon the cross. I know it was the blood for me. That's it. Don't come and you're not coming into mama's house or daddy's house or any other type of religion. You come in there with any other type of religion, any type of ideology, any other type of belief, you got to go. Because they're going to say, the devil is effing with you. And in my house, we shall serve the Lord. Now, that's how they got down. And they raised their children like that. Gave the children a foundation. But every now and then, you'll have one or two, or maybe a whole group. They're like saying, "Mama, Dad, I'm not falling for that Jesus stuff. I'm not feeling it because." Let me go back to my other screen. Because when we experienced, we observed flawful people within the religion, within the church, that doesn't sit well with our soul, but we don't know of any other way, or we don't have any other avenue to turn. So then we start doing other things like drugs, alcohol. We start living a lifestyle that's not very moral. But at the same time, we're going through this transformation, but not fully understanding why we're going through this transformation, because I just can't see it the way mama and daddy sees it. Or, all right, I'm not really seeing it like mom and daddy sees it, but I'm going to force myself to see it. So I'm going to put what they call that? I'm going to put a square peg. I'm going to force a square peg into a round hole. Some of us, we adapt, we change, we believe, we transform, and we roll it. And then some of us, we don't make it. So, oh yeah, I got a couple minutes. So what I'm just trying to say is that each generation receives another type of knowledge that negates the faith and belief that our ancestors or our parents had, and it can cause problems. It develops church hurt. And some of us never heal from that. So here at Fourth Dimension Spiritual Travel, I'm setting up the platform, especially, I really don't care what race you are, what color you are, it is what it is. I'm not prejudiced. Damn sure ain't a racist. I have lived in communities that have been diverse. I've lived in other countries, that was majority Caucasian and stuff like that. So, but my main goal, in other words, I am speaking to everyone who can relate of what I'm trying to say or what I am saying. But I'm really focusing on African American community, or as they're saying now, ADOS community or the FBA community. So what I want to do, I'm trying to find, so now, like I said, I'm the tail end of the baby boomer because I was born in 1963. The baby boomer class goes to 1964. So we're talking about previously before me, civil rights, Jim Crow, all the things that we struggled against and still are in the black community, coming from the greatest generation, silent generation, the baby boomers. Then you have the Gen X. So even though I was born at the tail end as a baby boomer, I grew up as a Gen X from 1965 to 1980. Right? And then also let's put in the other generations, millennials, 1981 to 1996, and maybe even Gen Z from 1997 to 2012. Now, not Gen Z, Gen Y, millennials, and then from 1981 to 1996, but then from Gen Z, the 97 to 212 birth range, on forward, totally different. Like, okay, I can relate based on the experiences I have went through growing up. But from Gen Z Actually, Gen Y to Gen Z for real, for sure, totally different. I'm an uncle. I'm an uncle. I'm an old man in the sight of their eyes. But I have the wisdom, I have the knowledge based on the trials and tribulations that I went through from the Gen X and the millennials uh, period. So let's take a look at this. Now, since I'm always dealing with ChatGPT, I have a lot of information and have a lot of my reels. I have a lot of my folders and files wrapped up in through ChatGPT because I like it. I love AI. It makes things a lot easier. However, at the same time, I do understand you can't go strictly by what AI or what ChatGPT says. It just opens up the door to um, opens up the door to improve, my critical thinking. So we're going to share this real quick. So it talks about right here, generations and Christianity. So we're dealing with church hurt. To transition from church hurt to spiritual recovery. You may find yourself needing to do some shadow work in order to get past the church hurt, because some of that church hurt, if not all of that church hurt, but I won't say all of it because church hurt is real. So when you have sick souls, there's a lot of sick, S-I-C-K, sick souls and spirits in the church. We've heard many times that the church is nothing but a spiritual hospital dealing with mental and physical ailments. That's a fact. So you're going to have, if you have that population inside the church building, then yeah, you're going to have some casualties and some injuries in that church building because we're dealing with human beings with sick thinking, sick souls, all that stuff, because for years what we have been doing is trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That's just a fact. Now, anyone that cannot agree to that, then I'm going to have to use a term that I use every now and then. You are lost in the sauce, boss. So anyway, I got like 20 minutes. So check this out. So here it is. This is what ChatGPT brought out to me when I asked him today about the generation classes and codes. So it says, for your fourth dimension spiritual travel content, which is what I'm working on, fourth dimension spiritual travel. This is basically just saying we're just trying to raise our frequency in this third dimension world to improve our spiritual insight and our spiritual literacy. So anyway, these groups can be especially useful because attitudes towards organized religion differ considerably by age. Like I was saying, how I am right now at 62. If my mothers were alive right now, ain't nothing you can tell them. You can't tell them nothing wrong about no Jesus. You can get it. You can do the historical side of it. They ain't having it. They ain't having it. And if you keep raising up enough hell, they're gonna tell you to get the F out their house. Some of y'all got some. That's just a fact. Okay. So anyway, it talks about baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z represent an important progression to examine when discussing church hurt or deconstruction and spiritual recovery. For example, someone born in 1964 is generally considered a late baby boomer. I just talked about that, right? While someone born in 1965 is generally classified as Gen X. These two people can be nearly the same age while technically belonging to different generations. Right? So that means you're going to have a different mindset. You're going to have a different spiritual set. You're going to have a different, your soul, it's on a different frequency. It's on a different frequency. And it may challenge our previous generation's frequency and start asking questions. And when we start asking questions, the previous generation, let's go with the baby boomers, they're going to feel a little uncomfortable. They're going to have a little bit of cognitive dissonance jumping on, and they're going to stand 10 toes down. However, the generation moving forward doing the same thing, and they're learning how to stand 10 toes down. Ain't no telling what I know I won't be around. I've been in transition to the next stage on how things are going to be for the generation Alpha and the generation Beta. Okay. So, where we at? I got 15 minutes. So they asked me if I want more information. So yeah, let me get some more information. I want to start breaking things down as far as the generation mindset. So it says absolutely here's a useful way to understand the generational shift in American Christianity, especially through the lens of church participation, deconstruction, and spiritually outside organized religion. These are broad patterns, but these are broad patterns, not descriptions of every individual. So this is not everybody, but it's in the soup. It's in the sauce. So let's go with the generation, approximately birth years. We're not even worried about the silent generation. Let's go down to the baby boomers. Oh, we can do the silent generation. Strong institutional church identification. Because then we have to be mindful now, even though it was, especially for the black community, it was really not, the church is really all that we had. Because there are so many, because of segregation, because of the residue of coming out of slavery, that group of souls had majority of them had to come together, which created a very powerful spiritual presence. They made Jesus real. So, silent generation, 1928 to 1945 birth range. strong institutions, church identification. Baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, Christian majority, but major cultural, religious questioning started to emerge. Generation X, 1965 to 1980, birth years. Condition, increasing skepticism towards institutions. Increasing skepticism towards institutions. The millennials, I hope I said that right. That's like a tongue twister for me. 1981 to 1996. Major decline in church affiliation. However, I forgot what was the name of that research. I think it was called Pew Research. It's saying that as of right now, especially for Christianity, during this deconstruction period, believers are kind of stabilizing within the religion to where it's not growing nor it's not losing. I think that was through Pew Research. I could find it, but I'm running out of time. Okay, so I'm almost done. So the millennials, Generation Y, 1981 to 1996, major decline in church affiliation. And then Generation Z, 1981 birth years and 1996, talks about major decline in church affiliation. And then, yeah, because I left the church, I deconstruct from the church. I be forgetting. I think it was either 2010 or 2012. I keep forgetting. At that time, I was real strong in building my spiritual foundation through the 12-step program to navigate in my recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. The 12-step program, which I've said many times and will continue to say many times, allowed me to open my mind to understand, especially with step 3, to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand. I had to use what I like to call, I had to use the HOW acronym. Honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. I had to do shadow work to find help to stay delivered from being a prisoner of war in the war of drugs. Which is still kicking which is still popping for a lot of people today. A lot of baby boomers, Gen X's, Gen Y's, Gen Z's, on that dope, on that alcohol. We're not going to talk about that. So, major decline, Gen Y, millennials, in church affiliation. And then Gen Z from 1997 to 2012, highly religiously affiliated, spiritually increasingly individualized. Highly religiously unaffiliated, spirituality increasingly individualized. That's why you hear people saying, I don't go to church, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. So it has evolved, but it evolved from from the tail end of the baby boomers to now. I got 10 minutes. I brought all of this up to say these are the reason, reasonings or circumstances or the conditions that create church hurt. So, fourth dimension spiritual travel is open to anybody and everyone. As I continue to stop being lazy and get off my ass and put up more content, and at 62, I look at it. We all can transition at any moment. But my goal right now, my thought right now, my plan right now, my hope right now, is that these next 10, I got 10 to 15 years. I may have more, but for sure, 10 to 15 years, I want to be that. I want to be able to help future generations behind me or in front of me. The Gen X's, the millennials, and the Gen Zs. So, and we have to be mindful for those where we've been able to put the square peg into the round hole in dealing with Christianity. We have to be mindful that when we start getting pushback from our kids or the younger generation, it's not because you're wrong, it's because they're on a different frequency. They're seeing things like we saw things, but they have courage to point it out. The problem with them pointing it out, when they're looking for the solution that's going to bring peace into their soul and their mind and their spirit, the distraction may come to where they have to go through certain uncomfortable circumstances to order to find their true self. So, come out of here. Wait for my screen. Come on. I'm on my screen is tripping. I can only see half of myself. So, when we talk about church hurt, here we go, church hurt, in 2026, there are a lot of deconstruction platforms out there. They're not feeling it. They're not understanding the religious dogma, the religious bullshit that we have in the past allowed to happen and continue to cover up and continue to practice even till this day. find themselves in the deconstruction period of getting a better understanding of what the religion is actually saying or talking about. For example, I got 4 minutes. For example, those who follow me on Facebook, you'll notice, or on Instagram, you see I have different titles. One of my titles, Instagram moniker name in Instagram, and then Facebook, you'll see I have written down Tahuti Aton Ra, basically from words from the ancient Egyptians, Kemetic science teaching, because with them I was able to understand that everything that they talked about was mythology. So when I think of Jesus, I don't believe in Jesus as being an actual historical, that's in the religion, character. However, I do believe that you can have a stronger belief and understanding of Jesus or any type of deity in these other religions when we view them as mythological. Yeah. Got some comments on here. Hold on. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out this. So I don't use StreamYard enough to where I can navigate. It'll get better. Hey, what's going on, Brenda? What's going on? Yeah. So now that's did you hear what I said? I don't view the deities in these religions as historical people, but as as principles, power in principle in mythology. Because then it's just freer. It's just more understandable. Even with the Bible, I still read the Bible or go to the Bible at certain times. I still, because of my upbringing in Christianity, I still have scriptures. I still have living water in my wells inside my body that spurs up, that comes up every now and then, to where I can quote a scripture, you know what I'm saying, to bring some type of admonishment, encouragement, things like that. Because I look at the principle of what that scripture could be saying instead of looking at that scripture how people, religious leaders want me to understand it. So I gotta go. I gotta be somewhere else. So anyway, I just came on here real quick, really just to try to get in the habit of putting out information on Sundays and throughout the week. Now, you can find me, like I said earlier, I'm under the name of Tahuti Aton Ra. I will discuss that sometime in the future on how I came up with that name And also, I'm known as Lie Too Long. So you can find me on TikTok on Lie Too Long, L22 Lie to Lie L. Hold on. Let's do it just like this. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Put it on the screen. You can find me on TikTok at lie2_too long. You can also find me. I also go by the name of Tahuti Atan Ra. Dealing with some spiritual principles. I will get into that when I have the time. Makes it go around, or as time moves forward. Here is my email address. I have quite a few of them, but the main ones that I use. This is one of the second ones that I may use, that I look into at least every other day, which is Lie Too Long. Lie Too Long, NIC at gmail.com. And my platform name is, I'm kind of rushing. Fourth Dimension Spiritual Travel. So what you will see, I'm gonna put the reels. I put the reels out. A lot of times I don't show my face. I'll just put a banner with some music, and I may have a voice over on that. I am leaning now more to show my face a lot more, especially on TikTok, and I still have issues dealing with Instagram. I keep forgetting how to really post on here, and I did it on Facebook. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about, I wanted to bring up the subject of what is church hurt. And there's a lot of reasons church hurt can vary, have different meanings for many people, you know. But like I said earlier, you know, one of the main issues you may find why people are going through church hurt and wanting to deconstruct from Christianity, because they're no longer feeling the pressure of, if I don't follow this particular religion, then I'm going to hell. And based on what generation you were brought up in, you're going to have a different view on that. The authenticity, or the realness of that being factual or not. So those who struggle with that, they're going to feel betrayed. They may have felt betrayed. They may have felt judged. They may have felt controlled. They may have felt experiencing spiritual abuse. They may have lost their community within the religion, and they may feel like they have become disillusioned. These are some of the reasons why you'll come across people who will say they've had church hurt and they're deconstructing from Christianity or from Islam or whatever, or Judaism, because it's not registering, it's not resonating in their soul and their spirit. And in order for us to save family relationships or relationships, period, you know, we have to be flexible. People, it helps to be flexible. You don't have to do nothing, but it helps to be flexible in our beliefs in order to save the relationship of a friend or a loved one, as long as it doesn't cause any type of physical harm. That's how I see it. So yeah, so I got to go. I got to be in my other community meeting, which is starting right now. And I appreciate you coming by, swinging by. Check out check out the video. I'm gonna make some clips on it sometime tonight, no later than tomorrow. Put those out there, into the social media world. And when you come across me, like it, comment, you know. But I know this is a slow progress. It is a difficult progress, but it is what it is. So I'm really but I'm focusing on the generations that came after me, which is the Z's, the Y's, and of course the X's. All right, peace out. Talk to you later.